Memorial Trust and the Department of Anthropology, Utkal University, I formally welcome all of you to the third L.K. Mahapatra Memorial Lecture. I would like to mention that today, the 29th of October, is my father's 94th birth anniversary. And we, on behalf of the Trust, formed in his name, that is the L.K. Mahapatra Memorial Trust, are celebrating his life and memory through this memorial talk. The L.K. Mahapatra Memorial Trust was formed in 2021 primarily to preserve and propagate the legacy of the doyen of anthropology, Professor L.K. Mahapatra, among the present generation of students and scholars, and to continue it to subsequent generations. Under the auspices of the L.K. Mahapatra Memorial Trust, a L.K. Mahapatra Center and Library has been established in his residence, this 16 Satyanagar, Bhubaneswar, which is an iconic address for anthropology in Orissa. This library houses the extensive personal collection of books and journals of Professor Mahapatra, many of which are rare and out of publication now. This center and library was inaugurated on June 10, 2022 by the Honorable Minister for Education, Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, Government of India, Shri Dharmendra Pradhan, and open to the public. The first L.K. Mahapatra Memorial Lecture on 29th October 2021 was delivered by Professor P.C. Joshi, Pro VC and Professor of Anthropology, University of Delhi, which was organized virtually. The second L.K. Mahapatra Memorial Lecture was delivered by Professor Geetika Ranjan, Dean of Anthropology, Northeastern Hill University, Shillong, on 29th October 2022. And here we are today at the third L.K. Mahapatra Memorial Lecture to be delivered by Professor Chakrabarti, who has come all the way from Calcutta. I am Calcutta. We welcome you, Professor Chakrabarti. And I would now like to request our esteemed guests, retired Professor of Anthropology and my teacher, Professor K.C. Tripathi, our speaker, Professor Bhaskar Chakrabarti, and Professor, Department of Anthropology, Utkal University, Professor Prasanna Patra, to please come forward, light the lamp, and pay floral tribute to Professor L.K. Mahapatra. Professor Chakrabarti, Professor Patra, Professor Tripathi, please come forward. I now request the guests to please proceed to the dais. We will now felicitate the guests by presenting saplings and the traditional Lodiya Uttariya. Thank you, Sujit. I now request Professor Tripathi to preside over this function and carry forward the proceedings. Over to Professor Tripathi.
I am happy to be here for the third memorial lecture of Prof Mahapatra. In fact, I am the only person available who worked with Prof Mahapatra long back in the Department of Anthropology. All my teachers and the other persons, those who were in the department, almost passed away. Prof Mahapatra came to the department in 1964. Prior to that, I was in the department from 1961. This is the long period that we have experienced together living in the Department of Anthropology. And from 1967, say, till the retirement in 89, a long period of 22 years, he has given a good direction for the development of anthropology, not in the Department of Anthropology and all over Odisha. So what I feel, Dr. Mahapatra has given a new direction to the field of anthropology. He has contributed a lot. He has made the new things for the development of anthropology. New sections were developed, new people came, lots of activities continued in the department, and we just enjoyed seeing all the development of the anthropology. Today, of course, I don't want to make a long speech out of this one because Professor Chakrabarti has to give the lecture, the memorial lecture in favor of Dr. L.K. Mahapatra. But I should tell, if anthropology has developed in Odisha, Professor Mahapatra is the key. There was no anthropology department in Odisha. That only one department which was opened in the BJP College, that was the initiative of Professor A.I. Pen, the first professor of anthropology. But when Dr. Mahapatra joined the department, he was so much interested and curious that how the different colleges should open to anthropology, our people can get good benefit out of the job. People can understand the meaning of anthropology. They can understand what is the utility of anthropology and how this anthropology can help in the developing of the society. So that's the reason I have been always very much particular in understanding from the view of Dr. L.K. Mahapatra that he wanted to make the horizon expansive. He wanted to make this subject so popular, and this particular popularity is still continuing today. We see large number of colleges now, more students, more people, more research work, and lots of things has come up. And this is only because of Professor Mahapatra. I always remember one thing. Professor Mahapatra was so serious in research. And as a man, he was also very much familiar to everything. He was such a nice person. He just dealt good with the students, colleagues, other people, common man, everything. Who came to him actually was very much pleased by his personality. So you can well see that Dr. Mahapatra has not only contributed something to Odisha, rather, in fact, he has contributed lots of things to the Indian national itself. That means he has organized lots of things in Indian context, gone to different universities, gone to different other places, and also made this anthropology so popular and so on. So Dr. Mahapatra, so you can well imagine how we started our subject when there was nothing. There was no university. What the university see today, it was not there. The university just was opened in 1963. So when I was there, only for 2 years earlier, we were just doing the groundwork of the university work. And the university gradually developed. When he joined in 64 and continued for a long period as head of the department, because the head of department, he has been there for 22 years. The question of head of the department, the rotation system came in 90. Not prior to that, there is no change of headship. So Dr. Mahapatra, because of this continuation as head, has contributed a great to the subject. I don't think if Dr. Mahapatra would have not been there, such like the development what you see may not have been possible.
Whose actions occupied the hearts and heads of his subjects. He was nonetheless respectful towards teachers. We were both afraid of and attracted towards some of our teachers. Some teachers, notably Professor Kunjo Bihari Das and Shri Santosh Kumar Kabi, literally shaped me and some of my cohorts at school. No wonder I wanted to be a teacher and a better teacher in those days of nationalist turmoil and transition. And then he talks about, how then he decides to go to Calcutta University and study anthropology. Tapore he moved to Hamburg University for his PhD. Before his PhD, in fact, he was one of the first employees of the Tribal Research Bureau, which is now called the SCST RTI. So 1954, that was his first job. And then he taught anthropology at multiple places, some of the very iconic places. Lucknow University was very famous. Guwahati University he went, where he was among the founding members of the faculty there. Dharwad University. This has been a process of discovery for me because I ran away from anthropology But one thing very interesting that I found, and which is pertinent in the context of today's talk, is that Arambharu, he was very concerned about a few things, about the discipline of anthropology and anthropologists. See, anthropology started as a colonial discipline, as a study of other cultures. But Bapankar gote concern thila, and he was sad about one thing, that why should the white men study our cultures, but we should only study our cultures? Why can't we also go and study other cultures? So that was the thing that bothered him a lot. So there used to be something called the UGC National Lectures. So the second time when he was invited in 1983-84, in fact, he focused his lectures on justification of this, that anthropologists in India can also study other cultures, and which is what he went on to do. Some of you, of course, those of you who have been familiar with Baba's work know that he was a pioneer in introducing the study of Southeast Asia in an anthropology department, or for that matter, any department in India. Nowadays, we talk a lot about Southeast Asia and India and Southeast Asia and linkages between our countries. But that was way back in the 60s. Baba, the moment he joined the Utkal University, he started that. So Southeast Asia as a specialization also started. He also started a center for that. In fact, there's a journal that he started in 1983 called the Journal of Southeast Asian Perspectives. So, which was the first journal of its kind in India. Bappa did extensive research also in the 80s. He took a Ford Foundation Fellowship and he did extensive research. In fact, Purburubi, one thing, when I went to Delhi, my friends in Delhi University said, we know about your father. Now how? Now, we were introduced to Sweden cultivation through his introduction. That this is how he defined Sweden cultivation or shifting cultivation. So he has been an authority on that. Tapore, of course, his cumulative research on India and Indonesia, Odisha and Indonesia, he published in the form of articles, which has been also published as 2 books, which you can find there. But beyond that, something that is very interesting, and I would like to mention to Professor Chakrabarti here, 1967, Baba became the head of the department. 64, he moved here. And one of the first things he tried to do was how to expand the boundaries of anthropology. In fact, something I was sharing with him is that Tankar said, I would have concern thila ki, why should anthropology be only reduced to tribal studies? Though he saw the importance of tribal studies and he did a lot of research on that, but he said that it should not be only that. So when he became the head, he tried to expand the boundaries. So one of the first things that he did was he invited professors of history, philosophy, economics and political science to come and give lectures at the department. And interestingly, the first national seminar that Utkal University in Vani Vihar organized was a seminar on community development, panchayati raj and cooperation. In collaboration, today's talk is on panchayats and something that Prof Chakrabarti will be talking about, in collaboration with the departments of rural economics and sociology. His efforts led to the setting up of 2 interdisciplinary research centers in Utkal University, the Population Research Center and the Center for Regional Studies. So Baba, or Professor Mahapatra, of course, worked on tribal studies, and one of the very interesting things that I found when I read up on his research was a continuum. Very often later on I realized that the term Adivasi itself is a problematic term, because Adivasi suggests that they have been Adivasi, the original inhabitants of that land. But there has been a lot of dynamism. Like in Baba's research, I found how certain tribals, when they became powerful, and we will hear a lot about political anthropology today, the play of power and all. When certain tribals, when they became powerful, the Raja gave them caste status, and later on when they were no longer powerful, they went back to tribal status. So there was a lot of dynamism that was going on, not just a static state that they were in. And in fact, his famous essay, Gods, Kings and Caste System, was published in multiple editions internationally, and he later made it into a book, which you find that's his most famous article. But the article also that has been very influential was something that he gave as a keynote speaker in 1983 at the Vancouver International Anthropology Congress, in which he was a keynote speaker, and he posed a very provocative question, the question of development for whom. That was a time, mind you, even till when I was in college also in the 90s, it was understood that certain peoples, tribal peoples, other peoples will have to bear the collateral damage of development for the larger masses. And he posed this fundamental question way back in 1983 then, development for whom? And that laid on to shape a lot of debates and discussions on displacement, resettlement, rehabilitation, in which he played a major role. Beyond all these contributions, of course, he is also my father. And he also asked fundamental and provocative questions to me as well. I'll just end with one anecdote. When I was a student at Delhi University, Prasanna Bhai was there. I don't know if you remember my hunger strike. So I went on hunger strike. I didn't tell my parents. On the 5th day, my parents got to know. If you have seen me, you know that I love food. And my mother and father cannot imagine that I can go without one single meal. So they were obviously, when you're far away, you imagine all kinds of things. So, Ma Kandikiri. So then I could say nothing. Then I called back and I decided to play my master stroke. I told my father, Baba, I'm your son. What do you expect me to do? You expect me to obviously fight against injustice. His answer was something which I completely shook me and I was not prepared for. His answer was, that's fine, I respect that, but just ask yourself if you want this fight to be your last. I think I'll end with that. Thank you very much.
Understanding how organizations lose this knowledge has become a central focus of attention, as studies have shown in the last 5 or 7 years, the critical role of memory loss in the performance and competitiveness in organizations. So organizational forgetting, as we call it, could also be classified into 2 very distinct dimensions, including the in the factory, and he performed his jobs with utmost sincerity, created a small garden inside the factory, the yield was lucrative, and Volada used to call the farmers and show the harvest of this garden. He encouraged them to use organic fertilizers of the factory, and acceptance among the common people in the village By his words, the villagers started using a little bit of organic fertilizer in their gardens as well. So in this way, he anyhow managed to sell or distribute the fertilizers among the villagers. But then the link between the villagers and the factory fell down after he passed away. In other words, we could argue that the memories of all these things got uprooted with the demise of Bolada, because the panchayat lost touch with the group of farmers in which the memories associated with the production and the distribution of fertilizers used to circulate. The panchayat also could not earn anything from the factory, and under compulsion, the panchayat decided to donate the fertilizer to the government offices where the gardens were maintained. This case can be considered as an incidence of, as I was talking, failure to capture at the village panchayat level. It happened because earlier the factory was personally supervised by one person. He was not present today where the situation fell apart. The village panchayat failed to incorporate the knowledge and expertise of this person into its memory systems. It is also necessary to map the network of the people who were in touch with this one person to collect the fertilizer of the factory. There's another case that illustrates how elected representatives of the village panchayat we studied promote unlearning to eliminate purposefully the information of their failure and ethical lapses. To get rid of the losses in the fertilizer factory, as I was just mentioning, the village panchayat leased out the factory to a local community for 1 year in exchange for rupees 15,600 only in 2019, 4 years ago. After 2 to 3 months, the company informed the elected representatives that it could not run the factory because it could not sell the fertilizer. And in this situation, if the company had to run the factory, money would be going out of their own stock. So it had decided to stop production at the factory.
Memories when I speak, I always remember the good memories. I just remembered Prof Mahapatra's activities in our department that has been continuing till today. They're some of the experiences that we got. I primarily thank Sheila and also Sujit. They have taken lots of pain in organizing such type of the memorial lecture. And this should continue, and this should be vitalized, and this should be still more prominent in future. But one thing, of course, if I speak something humorous, you will not mind me, they will excuse me. When I speak of the good and bad memories, that is very critical thing for me. I could not understand most of the things because it has been highly, and you could have benefited something what Professor Chakrabarti told and things you could have realized. So with these words, I invite next one.
No, it's absolutely fascinating. Just to add to what Professor Tripathi was saying, absolutely fascinating to see a crowd today, because when Sujit told me about the date and I was discussing this with my wife, the first thing she mentioned is that isn't the day of the India-England World Cup match? And we realized that yes, it is. And when Sheila picked me up, I was actually standing and checking on my phone, and India was not doing very well then. I think 3 or 4 wickets lost with a run rate of a little more than 4. So
ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the conclusion of yet another year of commemorating late Professor Dr. L.K. Mahapatra and his memories. Every year the memorial grows a little bigger and a little older, thanks to the presence of every individual member of this august gathering and believing in us every single year. Every year we meet on 29th October and regale in the memories of my grandfather. It is a bittersweet day for us. Sweet obviously because we keep on talking about my grandfather, but bitter because we miss him. But through this evening and these stories, I believe that the younger generation gets to know a little bit more about Professor Mahapatra, also realize the mark that he has left on his peers and generations to come. So I thank all of you for celebrating my grandfather and his legacy every year by attending this guest lecture and cherishing his memories. Thank you, Professor Patra, Professor Tripathi, Professor Chakrabarti, for your kind presence and for leading the guest memorial. Thank you, guests. Thank you, everyone present today.